What's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler Cohen, aka TCO, and you are watching the TCO Fantasy Show. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't I post on Thursday and Friday? Well, on Thursday, I filmed the mock draft. I was going to post it right before the draft, but it was a 25-minute long video, and it just wasn't exporting. My computer said, no, we're not letting you do that, and yeah, it didn't get exported. So, I messed up on that one, and then Friday, there was just so much happening with the draft. I was posting TikTok after TikTok after TikTok. I had a couple meetings, and there was just way too much going on Friday for me to get a video out. But we're here now, and I'm going to be going over the NFL draft, all 7 rounds this week. And we're going to be looking at the guys who have fantasy football value, and we're going to see how they look and their outlook for fantasy. So, yeah, let's stop wasting time. Let's get right on into it. Okay, so here we are. We are going to be looking at the NFL draft here, and it was an exciting one. I had fun watching the NFL draft. Nothing to complain about here. So the first overall pick was Bryce Young. I love that. I love him ending up on the Panthers. I think they have a great coaching staff. And I think whatever quarterback ended up going to the Panthers is going to end up being a star because they just have everything a quarterback could need. They got a bunch of experienced wide receivers. They got younger wide receivers who we're going to talk about later. And yeah, I just really like that landing spot for him. For fantasy football, I like it still. I mean, maybe he's not going to have success in his first year because a lot of these rookie QBs just don't have success in their first year. But if he is going to have success, this is the situation he would have success in. So I'm not going to call him something that you're going to want to draft for fantasy this year, but maybe the year after that, he's definitely going to be an interesting person because he does have some rushing upside and he's just got a great arm. We also got to talk about CJ Stroud on the Texans. Now, this was a smokescreen. I don't feel like everybody knew this was going to happen because, well, nobody really knew this was going to happen. He ends up on the Texans, and for fantasy football, it's a terrible landing spot for him just because they really don't have a good wide receiver one. The O-line's really not that good. The only really good thing they got going on offense right now is Dameon Pierce. Besides that, there isn't much going on. He's going to be his number one target might be Dalton Schultz. That might be the best thing he's got out there. So it's going to take a while for CJ Stroud to be fantasy football relevant. But in a dynasty league, I could see how he could have some value. In your rookie draft, I would probably take him as the QB3. But it's going to be a while until he has any value for fantasy. Pick 4, Anthony Richardson went to the Colts. Now, this is an interesting one because I thought Anthony Richardson was going to end up on the Seahawks. That was where I had him going, and I thought he was going to be able to sit behind Geno for a year and chill out. But now, he goes to the Colts, where they've already said he is probably going to be the Week 1 starter. So, that's very interesting, and Anthony Richardson's got a lot of rushing upside and could be valuable in year 1 for fantasy football. So, it's interesting, and Shane Steichen, his coach, I think he could definitely work well with Anthony Richardson. I mean, we just saw what he did with Jalen Hurts, and that was pretty damn nice. So, I like it. I definitely think Anthony Richardson's someone you could take a late-round flyer on in fantasy football this year. I wouldn't be opposed to doing that. And, yeah, I really like Anthony Richardson. For Dynasty, for the future, I think he might be the QB1 for Dynasty in a rookie draft this upcoming year. Yeah. I really like Anthony Richardson on the Colts. I think it works out nice for him. Bijan Robinson goes to the Atlanta Falcons at 8. Now, I love this landing spot for Bijan. This is a great spot. Arthur Smith is the coach. He loves to run that ball, and Bijan Robinson is going to be a huge part of this offense. So, for fantasy, I think we should be valuing him as a top 5 running back this year. This year, in redraft, I think he's a top 5 running back. I think we have to value him there. If he's there in your first round, you grab him. You grab him at your pick. I don't care. Maybe if you don't have the first overall, maybe if you're in the top 3 picks, you don't grab him because you're going to grab Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler maybe. But besides that, I'd rather have Bijan. These rookie running backs have such a great track record in their rookie year. And Bijan Robinson's one of the greatest running backs we've seen since Saquon Barkley. So I really like the landing spot with the Falcons. I think that's going to work out very nicely for him. With the 12th overall pick, the Detroit Lions selected Jahmyr Gibbs. They traded back, and they took Jahmyr Gibbs early. I'm talking real early. This was a shock. It blew my top off. I was pretty shocked about this one. But look at this pick. Look at how this pick got traded. First, this was a Cleveland pick. Then it was a Houston pick. Then it was Arizona's. And then it was Detroit's. A lot of trading going on there. But Jahmyr Gibbs is on the Lions. And that's interesting. It's like, that's high draft capital for a running back. For fantasy, I don't know where to value him. I really don't. They just traded DeAndre Swift, so that's good. Now we know that's just going to be Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, which is beautiful. But I don't know how they're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs. I've heard people saying they might throw him more out there like a wide receiver. Like, he'll be at the running back position sometimes, kind of like DeAndre Swift was, but Jahmyr Gibbs has amazing receiving ability, and he might just line up at what receiver sometimes, especially because Jameson Williams is going to be out on suspension for the first 6 games, I think. So he's going to catch a lot of passes there. And for redraft this year, I don't know how high I would draft Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe late second, early third. Late second, early third. He might even go later than that, which would be pretty nice because not that many people are crazy about him. But being a top 12 pick as a running back, that's pretty insane. That doesn't happen anymore, and especially for a running back like Jahmyr Gibbs. So that's something to be excited about. There's nothing not to be excited about there. Now, I feel like this guy kind of fell a little bit, and Jaxon Smith-Njigba goes at 20 to the Seahawks. And it's a weird landing spot. I mean, it's a really good organization, and I'm not saying you shouldn't draft Jaxon Smith-Njigba because the Seahawks are a really good team. They have a great track record. Pete Carroll's a great coach, but there's a lot of target competition there. I mean, later in the draft, they also grabbed Zach Charbonnet, a running back who tends to catch the ball a lot. And the Seahawks already got DK, and they got Tyler Lockett, and they got Kenneth Walker. There's going to be a lot of competition for opportunity there. So I don't know if it's the best landing spot, but it's still really good. And Jaxon Smith-Njigba is a great wide receiver. I don't see how he can't succeed. He's definitely somebody I would be taking a late round flyer on in redraft. And for Dynasty, I'm still drafting him over Jahmyr Gibbs, personally. That's how I feel. I think Jaxon Smith-Njigba is just a straight-up talent. I think the guy's a great wide receiver. And maybe in 2-3 years down the road, he will overtake Tyler Lockett. Maybe even less than that. It might be next year. It might be this year. He might overtake Tyler Lockett. And when that does happen, his skill set combined with DK Metcalf's are going to go together so perfectly because they're going to line up JSN in that slot. They're going to keep him underneath. They're going to throw DK on the outside, and I like that. It's not a terrible landing spot, and I like it for him. Now, Quentin Johnston goes at 21 as the second wide receiver off the board, and he goes to the Chargers, which I wasn't expecting. I was not expecting Quentin Johnston to be the second wide receiver off the board. There were a lot of bad rumors around him, and yeah, there was a lot of bad stuff talked about him leading up to the draft, but he did end up being the second wide receiver off the board. He goes to the Chargers. Great opportunity, great spot for Dynasty because he's going to be able to sit there and develop with Justin Herbert for the next couple of years, so you like to see that. And for his year one outlook, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, you still got Mike Williams there, and you still got Keenan Allen, and he's going to be there, but it's a good opportunity for him. He's going to be able to get to learn behind those two guys, and that's all you could ask for. And I think he's a very talented wide receiver. But for this year, I probably wouldn't be drafting him. But for Dynasty, for the future, I think he's interesting. 22, the Baltimore Ravens took Zay Flowers. I think that is the perfect landing spot for him. It just makes sense. It sounds right. Zay Flowers on the Ravens. It works. For fantasy, I don't think he's going to come in there and just be the wide receiver one automatically. I still think Rashad Bateman's more talented than Zay Flowers. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. But OBJ, I don't really view as a threat. I don't think that's a problem. OBJ's old. I'd be surprised if he played more than 8 games. Mark Andrews is definitely a threat for him. Mark Andrews is the real wide receiver one on that team, so that's a little scary. But Zay Flowers is going to have some wide receiver 2 upside in the future. Maybe not this year. I'm not crazy about drafting him in redraft this year, but he's interesting for the future. At 23, the Minnesota Vikings took Jordan Addison. This pick I love. Jordan Addison combined with Justin Jefferson. That is nice. And Jordan Addison is even somebody I would be willing to draft this year for regular redraft fantasy football, just because they gave up so many targets because of Adam Thielen leaving. And I don't think KJ Osborne is really that good of a receiver. I think Jordan Addison blows him out of the water. So I think Jordan Addison could easily come into that offense and have a 1,000-yard season this year. So he's definitely somebody I would be targeting in redraft. I really like that landing spot on the Vikings for him. Another star that goes in the first round, Dalton Kincaid goes to the Bills. Oh my goodness, I love this. If one of those wide receivers was still on the board, the Bills would have definitely taken that wide receiver. But, well, those wide receivers weren't on the board, so they had to grab the next best available thing, and that's Dalton Kincaid. He is a great tight end, an amazing pass catcher, kind of reminds me of Travis Kelce in a way. And I love this. I mean, he's 23 years old. Josh Allen's 25. I think the two of them are going to be best friends. They have very similar personalities. And I think we could be looking at the next Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews level tight end talent right here with Dalton Kincaid. And I'm really excited for that. In fantasy this year, I would take a late round flyer on him just because the tight end position is so weak in fantasy. Dalton Kincaid might go in there this year and be a top 10 tight end with ease. He might even go in there and be a top 5 tight end. I mean, they are in desperate need of a great wide receiver too, and Dalton Kincaid could be a damn good wide receiver too for them alongside Stephon Diggs. So I'm very excited to see that, and Dalton Kincaid on the Bills is nice. It's really nice. Bills fans should be excited for that one. I guess it's all the fantasy football relevant guys for the first round. So one guy I want to talk about a little bit more from the first is Jahmyr Gibbs. Because it seems like some people are a little bit scared of him. It seems like some people are like, Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't know, he's still small, and he really wasn't that great of a prospect. I think that was a terrible pick to take him at 12, or whatever, this, and that. Listen, DeAndre Swift is gone. David Montgomery is there, but it's David Montgomery. We're not that scared of David Montgomery. And Jahmyr Gibbs was a really good running back. The dude profiled very nicely. I mean, yeah, he's a little smaller, but he catches a lot of passes, and that's what you want to see for fantasy football. Jahmyr Gibbs could be fantastic for fantasy, and the draft capital is there. Taking a running back at pick 12 guarantees that he's going to be on that field a lot. So, if you want Jahmyr Gibbs, I suggest you take Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he will be very good for fantasy football, and I don't see that being a mistake drafting him. And that is it for the first round, at least for the guys who are fantasy football relevant. So tomorrow and the next day, we will probably be breaking down the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, and so on until we do the whole entire draft. So, yeah. That's all we got for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Tyler Cohen. You're watching the TCO Fantasy Show. Make sure you stay around, chill out, vibe with the music, like, subscribe, and thank you, and have a wonderful frickin' day.